And we really need help with those to try to correct some of the things that are going on at UAB today. And I can just briefly give you a brief history of why this is so important to me. In 1980, when I came to UAB, the first thing I did, I came from Berkeley, California, and I came here, and I'd never been to the South before in my life. And I fell in love with UAB and Birmingham. And one of the first things I asked my colleagues was, where are the dorms? And they said, we can't have dorms. And I said, why can't you have dorms? And they said, because the Board of Trustees thinks if you want to live in a dorm, you have to go to school in Tuscaloosa. And I said, wow, that seems to be very short-sighted. And I've spent the last 35 years saying, wow, that seems to be short-sighted. A few years later, we hired a dean in the business school who was a renowned dean from the University of Georgia. And he came with all these programs that he wanted to start at UAB. Within 6 months, he was gone because every single program he tried to get approved by the Board of Trustees was not approved. And he eventually went to the University of Texas and did the same miraculous job in Texas. You can go to around 2006 when Watson Brown resigned as our football coach, and we tried to hire his associate head coach, Pat Sullivan. Our Board of Trustees wouldn't allow us to do that because he's an Auburn man. Can you believe that? I guess in Alabama we can believe that. And we tried to hire Jimbo Fisher. We couldn't do that because Nick Saban might want him as his associate coach, as an offensive coach. So we couldn't hire him. So who do we hire? Someone who was handpicked by the Board of Trustees that had no experience being a head coach whatsoever. And we then began a series of losing seasons that lasted, it seemed like an eternity, but it was probably 5 or 6 years. And so this has happened again and again. In 2011, we tried to get our own football stadium. I think it was going to get approval from the Board of Trustees before the meeting where it was going to be voted on. It was pulled by a name that's probably familiar with many people, Paul Bryant Jr., as President Pro Tem of the board. He alone could pull this item, which was going to have enough votes to pass. And the reason he pulled it, he said, the meeting before, he had informal discussions with other board members, and he had divined that there was not enough support, so he pulled it. The end result was that the president, who basically put forth this proposal, lost her job within a year.
Why she's on vacation?
Yeah, well, yeah. It was basically all of a sudden she was at a meeting with the faculty senate. She was planning all these great things for UAB. She got a phone call and she announced her long-planned retirement right after that phone call. So you can connect the dots. Recently, a lot of what's happened recently, many of you have heard. The killing of the football program was so unjust. It made money. It had great fan support. It had a 130% increase in fan support. We love that team. It was really growing on the community. It was changing the community, and it was killed probably for that very reason. But it wasn't killed for the reasons that you might have heard from President Dr. Watts, who said he waited bated breath for this report to come in because of the final numbers. In fact, the plan was hatched not just months, but probably years before that. It was deceitfully hidden from everyone. No one was allowed to provide any support, but that set off a firestorm. Not just because of that, but because there's been this long history, certainly the last several years since Dr. Watts has been the president, of a lack of governance by the faculty. And they've changed faculty benefits. They've eliminated the honors program, or attempted to eliminate the honors program, an extremely successful honors program in the undergraduate school. They did so many things without representation. It was a completely dictatorial style. It was a style that Dr. Watts was using, which was exactly the same style the Board of Trustees has used with UAB since I've been there for the last 35 years. And so, thank goodness we've had great leadership recently to come forward to basically stand up to this sort of tyrannical rule. And we have these bills that basically allow us to change the Board of Trustees, hopefully bring back football, bowling, and rifle. By the way, bowling is a female sport, rifle is a female sport. They had to cut those two sports so they looked like they were just after football. But the truth of the matter is, about 4 or 5 people on the Board of Trustees simply can't stand the fact that another school in their system has a football. It's as simple and trivial as that. It's really, the adjectives are going to escape me for telling you how bad that situation is. But today, we need to make these changes for the good of UAB. UAB has 18,500 students. UAB has 19,000 employees. It's the largest employer employer in the state. It has a budget of $3 billion. It affects not just UAB, it affects the entire Birmingham metropolitan area. It affects the entire state. The health of UAB and the health of Birmingham is at stake. We have to do something to change this. So we really need your help in supporting John's bills and Jack's bills and Jabo's bills, because it's a matter of fairness and equity. We need this for not just a little football team. And one of the reasons that I'm really quite passionate about this is this year I got to know our football coaches. And I consider them my colleagues. They were hired under false pretenses and they were never supported. And 105 football players who I got to know. And when I saw a video of Dr. Watts shaking his water bottle at them, telling them that he loved them more than, he loved UAB more than them, every time I think about that, I say, what can I do to fix this? It has to be fixed. It's not right, it's not fair, it's got to be changed. So what we're here today to ask you to do is to help us change this. It is really critical. It's not a little tiny thing. I know you have so many, you've got kids to take care of, you've got budget issues, I know all of that. But this is also a very big issue in Alabama. It's important, and we need you to pay attention to that and do whatever you can to help. We passed out a little fact sheet that's got a lot of information about our arguments and the position of UAB. I hope you have a chance to read that. I hope you have a chance to share the information with others, because we need everybody to be on board. Because we are fighting a very, very strong enemy. You must understand that. They will do anything to make sure they stay in power. We have a board, and this is the front page of the Birmingham News. It says Bryant Jr. ties bind bank and UA trustees. There is a sort of a flow chart here. There are 14 members really of the board of trustees. Here are all the ones that work for Bryant Bank. And the ones that don't work for Bryant Bank work for Protective Life, which is owned by another trustee, Johnny Johns, okay? So this is the most incestuous board. If this had been any other organization in the country, these folks would be in jail, okay? There's no reason why these guys should basically serve for life, elect their own, and be accountable to nobody. This is just not fair, and it needs to be changed. So I really thank you. I hope you can do whatever you can to help us, because it's wrong and it needs to be fixed.